The Satanic Panic is a moral panic about alleged widespread satanic ritual abuse which originated around the 1980s in the United States, peaking in the early 1990s, before waning as a result of skepticism of academics and law enforcement agencies who ultimately debunked the claims. The phenomenon spread from the United States to other countries, including South Africa, where it is still evident periodically. South Africa was particularly associated with the Satanic Panic because of the creation of the Occult-Related Crimes Unit in 1992, described as the world's only ritual murder task force. According to anthropologist Aniga, this was linked with powerful conservative Christian forces within the then dominant white community in the last years of apartheid. Christian belief is a prerequisite to serve in the unit. The concern with the alleged presence of Satanism and occult practices has continued into the post-apartheid era. The local context. The long-term focus in a South African context has not been on claims of child abuse by satanic cults, and the psychiatric community has not played a significant role, as was the case in other countries. The local phenomenon is characterized by Christian evangelism and the scapegoating of Satanism for crime and societal problems. In his 1997 PhD thesis, psychologist Gavin Ivey attributes the local phenomenon to an increase in Christian fundamentalism coupled with a perceived satanic threat in the social context of the contemporary occult revival. The current cultural paranoia concerning the satanic epidemic is directly attributable to the extreme dualistic theology of the burgeoning evangelical Christian movements, which simultaneously promotes persecutory anxiety in the Christian faithful, and spurs would-be Luciferian rebels to genuine satanic practices. Ivey states, all monotheistic religions are forced to account for the presence of evil in a world where everything is created by God, who in theory should be able to vanquish all forms of evil but seems incapable to do so. He compares the importance of Satan in the only two contemporary major religions with a personified principle of evil in opposition to a single omnipotent deity who is unambiguously good, namely Satan in Christianity, whose identity evolved in the New Testament, and Satan in Islam. He notes the greater significance of Satan in Christianity, as Satan emerged as a less threatening figure in Islam, and, because it embraces a fundamental dualism, the Christian spiritual world is seen as a battleground between God and the personification of evil, the devil. However, members of the relatively small Muslim community in South Africa have also been outspoken about the alleged dangers of Satanism. In her 2012 MA thesis, Danielle Dunbar argues that while influenced by the international Satanism scare, past periods of satanic panic in South Africa reflected localized periods of political upheaval and social anxiety. While in the past Dunbar and other academics have associated the South African phenomenon with the white population group in particular, some more specifically with Calvinist Afrikaners, the racial divide is disappearing. According to American sociologist Jeffrey Victor, satanic cult stories arise as a response to widespread socioeconomic stresses, particularly those affecting parenting and family relationships. These social stresses are products of the rapid social change and social disorganization that began during the 1960s, and that caused a deep cultural crisis of values and authority. The satanic cult legend says, in symbolic form, that our moral values are threatened by evil forces beyond our control, and that we have lost faith in our authorities to deal with the threat. With reference to this quote, academic Nikki Fakoff states, in a South African context, alongside this, the figure of the Satanist provides an object for the displacement of anxiety and the concurrent cohesion of nationalistic sentiment. Apart from religious groups, the media and the government have aggravated the local phenomenon. In 2007, Afrikaans language newspaper Rapport dismissed journalist Dion Mus, who had advocated religious tolerance in his new column, to protect its commercial interests. According to Nikki Fakoff, the English and Afrikaans media have not differed materially in their treatment of the subject. The paranoia, sensationalism or occasional skepticism with which stories were reported generally had more to do with the class or locality of the audience than with their language group. The mainstream media in general persists in sensationalistic reporting regarding Satanism and the occult, especially regarding criminal cases with any suggestion of satanic involvement. The phenomenon is also evident in South Africa's neighboring countries. In March 2013, Zimbabwe's National Police spokesperson Charity Chirambo said media reports about satanic incidents were unfounded and were causing unnecessary panic. The Role of the Government. The Satanic Bible, authored by Anton LaVey and published in the United States in 1969, which contains the main principles of atheistic LaVey and Satanism, was banned during apartheid in South Africa from 1973 to 1993 for moral reasons. In 1974, South Africa's then Minister of Justice, Jimmy Kruger, reported widespread media coverage of a vast secret network of Satanists in the country was based on books published on the subject and not actual satanic events. The government also disputed claims of widespread Satanism in the 1978 Dutch Reformed Church report. However, elements within the South African government continue to play a role in propagating the panic despite the constitutional right to religious freedom in post-apartheid South Africa. SAP's Occult-Related Crimes Unit. The SAP's Occult-Related Crimes Unit was established in 1992 during the final years of apartheid by born-again Christian Cobus Jonker, prompted by former Minister of Law and Order Adriaan Vlok. Jonker joined the SAP in 1969 and was previously head of the Port Elizabeth Murder and Robbery Unit. During his policing career, he earned the nicknames Donker Jonker, the Hound of God, and God's Detective. As late as 2006, SAPS defined occult-related crime on the occult-related page of their website as follows: occult-related crime means any human conduct that constitutes any legally recognized crime, the modus operandi of which relates to or emanates primarily from any belief or seeming belief in the occult, witchcraft, satanism, mysticism, magic, esotericism and the like. Included in the scope of occult-related crime are ritual moody medicine murders, witch purging, witchcraft-related violence and sect-related practices that pose a threat to the safety and security of the Republic of South Africa and/or its inhabitants. According to Ivy, the Special Crime Unit was formed to investigate and prosecute satanic crime. Theodore Petrus, senior lecturer in anthropology at Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, states the main focus of the unit is Satanism in his 2009 doctoral thesis on crime related to witchcraft in a traditional African context. SAPS has been criticized for neglecting the more serious criminal problems of witch hunts and medicine murders. Danielle Dunbar refers to the SAPS definition of occult-related crime in her 2012 MA thesis. Under this broad purview of the occult, the Specialized Occult-Related Crimes Unit predominantly targeted the threat of Satanism in South Africa. Indeed, the conceptualization of the world's only ritual murder task force was fostered in the last embers of apartheid South Africa during the White Satanic Panic. Ivy notes that everything occult is considered evil from a fundamentalist Christian perspective, and the term Satanism is commonly understood in Christian societies to include a wide range of unconventional or occult beliefs and activities. The SAPS website also listed 41 warning signs of possible destructive occult-related discourse, including gender confusion, playing fantasy games which lack boundaries, an interest in computers, an excessive interest in horror movies and heavy metal music, depression and various stereotypical elements of Gothic fashion. Dale Wallace, honorary senior lecturer in religion studies at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, comments on this thinking in her 2006 doctoral thesis. The presence of this hysterical rhetoric in a modern police service in South Africa, even post-1994, mirrors similar occurrences in Britain and the USA and in various European countries in the 1980s. A religious construction of crime-pervaded law enforcement agencies, giving rise to the title of cult cops to those who cloaked criminal activity with fundamentalist Christian interpretation. From the late 1990s, what had become known as the Satanic Panic attracted the attention of scholars. Victor 1993, Hjelm 2000, Pike 2001, and a more critical appraisal from within police departments themselves, leading to a universal debunking of the phenomenon. Anthropologist Inigo Tepo writes about the unit in the research informant's experience with the unit in an academic publication published in 2009. South African whites are well known for their religious conservatism, tending towards right-wing fundamentalism, which leaves little room for other faiths. Chittister 1992, 216. The Calvinist Afrikaner-run Dutch Reformed Church, DRC, which helped to justify the racial segregation of apartheid, is a stronghold of this conservatism. The DRC's pervasive influence means that the devil and devil worshippers are still generally feared, to the extent that South Africa is still the only country in the world that has an occult-related crime unit, OCRU, in their police force. While my informants report good relations with the police at present, many of them had experienced problems with them earlier when the difference between neo-pagan practices and devil worship had not yet become clear to the authorities. One of my informants had been in considerable trouble during his high school years when he, as a reader of strange books and all of 15, was suspected of occult activities. In the ensuing police hearings, these accusations were proven to be a teenage prank. However, the allegations of dark, diabolic practices in a privileged beachfront suburb caused a media frenzy, and by the time the misunderstanding was corrected, my informant had earned a reputation as the Camps Bay Satanist. While SAPS removed the occult-related page from their website in 2006 after the South African Pagan Rights Alliance requested the removal of discriminatory material, its content is still available via the official SAPS community magazine SERVAMUS. An article titled "Breaking the Circle" in a SERVAMUS Special Community Edition Drugs and Occult-Related Crime. The Facts, the Answers published in 2000 lists animosity towards Christianity, the Church and Jesus Christ as one of many warning signs of satanic involvement. This SERVAMUS Special Community Edition was still being sold in May 2013. In an article written by John Kerr and published in SERVAMUS, he says there are 3 satanic movements: Brotherhood of Ram, Order of Darkness and Sons of Satan, and 4 types of Satanist: generational Satanists, organized Satanists i.e. Leviathan Satanists, self-styled Satanists and dabblers in South Africa. He also authored and co-authored several books on Satanism during his policing career, which Dunbar describes as alarmist anti-Satanist literature, including Youth and Satanism Exposed, 1990, Satanism Exposed, 1992, and Satanism in South Africa, 2000. Wallace notes the conflation of paganism and Satanism in this literature, despite disclaimers to the contrary, and John Kerr's failure to distinguish between actual satanic activity and purely criminal acts in the media. Disclaimers and L's in John Kerr's book and in the media, that paganism and Wicca are not Satanism, are overridden in these texts and in the labeling of any and all forms of occultism as deviant, through the singular lens of evangelical Pentecostal Christianity. Pagan identities are unavoidably conflated with Satanism in this manner. Christianity is a prerequisite to serve in the unit. An article titled "Warriors Against Evil," first published in the November 1998 issue of SERVAMUS and later published in the 2000 SERVAMUS Special Community Edition, states, SAPS members who want to serve in this unit must acknowledge the supernatural world. They must strongly believe in Jesus Christ, because Satanism's main enemy is Jesus Christ. It is not just a job, it's a lifelong mission, involving the body, soul and spirit. The article also lists deliverance through pastoral guidance within the scope of the unit. John Kerr elaborated on this in an interview with Sarah Duguid. The ordinary guy cannot investigate occult crimes. There are things you see and experiences you have as a result of the supernatural. You must be strong in faith to be in the occult unit. He believes Satan is a literal being. In the April 1997 issue of SERVAMUS, he writes, I believe the devil exists because I have seen things happen. I have seen a woman being attacked right in my presence by a demonic being. Some senior SAPS officers have attempted to have the unit disbanded, An internal SAPS document dated October 1998 expressed concern about the policing of religious activities due to constitutional restraints, and Junker's public addresses on the dangers of Satanism to schoolchildren. Community policing forums and church seminars at the state's expense were curtailed. Junker left the police force after suffering a heart attack in 2000 and subsequently practiced as a pastoral counselor. He has been a director of the ACT UP Support Christian Prayer Ministry since 2002 and has worked as a consultant for the SAPS Detective Academy in Hammanskraal since his retirement. Other former members of the unit became involved in Christian deliverance ministry and therapy, including former Eastern Cape coordinator of the unit James Lottering, Warfare Ministries in Port Elizabeth, and former Free State coordinator of the unit Johan de Beer, Oxano Trauma Therapy Center in Bloemfontein. Lottering left SAPS at the end of 1997. De Beer founded Oxano in 1998 while working for SAPS and resigned from SAPS in 2002. F.H. Havinga, a specialist reservist for the unit, is also a Christian pastoral counselor and founder of the ASERAC Center for Trauma Victims of Drug, Occult, Alcohol and Sexual Abuse in Campton Park. Adi Lamprecht was appointed head of the unit in 2000. He is also a registered counselor and as late as 2010 was listed as a member of ACT UP Support's advisory board. Lamprecht has stated that, unlike Satanism in other countries, which is predominantly about self-worship, Satanism in South Africa is characteristically against Jesus Christ. Therefore, it is against all that is good. He believes Satanism is a belief system that leads to crime, stating, "It starts with white magic. It goes to gateway religious systems and then to destructive religions." Official statements that the unit had been disbanded were dismissed by Lamprecht, who in 2006 said the unit had been absorbed into other units, and later said it had been removed from the public eye and renamed the SAPS Harmful Religious Practices Unit. Psychologist Gavin Ivey said the unit is a waste of taxpayers' money, and psychoanalyst Veronique Faure states, "The only way the old guard can justify their place within the new SAPS is by mobilizing around Christian values. They hope to convince both the public and the government of the validity of their sacred mission and thereby gather funding for further investigations and campaigns of moral education." In November 2010 a team of 30 specialists was trained for the unit, and in 2012 2 detectives per province received specialized training. Junker was involved in part of this training. In 2012 3 Eastern Cape detectives were trained by Junker for a new provincial occult task team. As a result of this new investment being publicized in the media, DAMP and Shadow Minister of Police Diane Kohler-Barnard asked the Minister of Police Nathi Mathethwa for the number of occult-related crimes in the last financial year and was told such information is not readily available. Based on an internal SAPS memorandum dated August 2012, it appears the SAPS definition of occult-related crime has been simplified to crime that relates to or emanates primarily from an ostensible belief in the supernatural that formed a driving force in the forming, planning and execution of a crime. However, the scope of occult-related crime that may be investigated has been expanded to include. The South African Pagan Rights Alliance objected to the apparent revival of the unit on the grounds of religiously motivated prejudice demonstrated towards minority religions by Christian evangelists involved in the initiative, and the inappropriate allocation of police resources to the investigation of alleged paranormal phenomena which cannot be proven in court. Theodore Petrus expressed some reservations about the establishment of a new SAPS occult task team, cautioning that a clear distinction should be made between Satanism and African witchcraft beliefs and occult-related crimes should be clearly defined in legislation to avoid infringing on religious freedoms. Department of Basic Education and Example School Code of Conduct published by the National Department of Education in 2008 explicitly associates Satanism with criminal activity, and many public schools openly discriminate against practitioners of Satanism and the occult, which are generally undefined. Education about what Satanism actually entails has met with resistance from parents, and schoolchildren have been stigmatized and isolated as a result of accusations of Satanism. On the 1st of March 2013, Gauteng schoolgirl Kimajetsui Safalaro was allegedly fatally stabbed by another girl from the same school. Although before dying Safalaro allegedly told her mother her attacker said they were attacking her because she hung out with Satanists, the incident was labeled satanic in the media. On the 5th of March 2013, Gauteng NEC for Education Barbara Creasy announced a gang of 10 other learners at the school, including 2 present at the incident, had been suspended from school pending investigations into the incident. Gauteng Department of Education, GDE spokesperson Charles Fain said their suspension related to alleged involvement in harmful religious practices, which Creasy said department officials were told might have led to the incident. South African Council of Churches chairperson Mouti Pataki commented, "We are gravely concerned that evil spirits are driving innocent children to commit horrendous crimes." According to a GDE media release dated the 7th of March 2013, a partnership with faith-based organizations, FBOs, comprising representatives of mainstream Abrahamic religions is assisting the department to support schools in addressing issues of learning and teaching, learner discipline, and spiritual disturbances at schools. On the 18th of March 2013, Creasy publicly signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the FBOs. On the same day, the department published an official statement online about an anti-Satanism strategy for schools developed by the FBOs to address harmful religious practices related to the occult and Satanism. However, the department has no statistics on such incidents. Creasy said the situation is not at crisis level, and the department denied there was an increase in satanic incidents among schoolchildren in the province. Creasy said a handbook had been compiled to help teachers and parents deal with Satanism, which included signs to look out for and guidance in the event that a child is suspected of being involved in the occult. Atheists and pagans objected on constitutional grounds. Following the receipt of several complaints by the South African Human Rights Commission, the GDE advised there would no longer be a handbook for teachers and parents, only guidelines for department officials. Ironically, in March 2011, Creasy herself was labeled a Satanist in a public slur by Masenyi, a school principal and SADTU's Gauteng chairperson. Although the mainstream media in general sensationalized the Satanism aspect of these developments, one article by Elaine Swampeel in the Citizen newspaper presented skeptical views of experts and religious leaders, including Anglican bishops Peter Lee and Martin Breitenbach, that dysfunctional behavior in school violence could also be attributed to emotional and psychological problems, instability at home, and superstition. Also in March 2013, KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Education Senzo Makunu said an increase in Satanism and incidents of possession in KwaZulu-Natal schools were a cause for concern for the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Education. He invited churches and others to help the department address the issue. In contrast to the GDE partnership with FBOs, following reports of learners being involved in Satanism in Western Cape schools in 2012, Western Cape Education Department spokesperson Patty Atwell said school psychologists and social workers would be provided to support schools on request. Spokesperson for the National Department of Basic Education Hope Makitla said the department did not have a firm policy to deal with the issue, and said the GDE strategy could be implemented in other provinces at the discretion of the individual provinces. In October 2013, the Minister of Basic Education Angie Machekwa told residents of Mpumalanga to pray for their children to be delivered from evil spirits in response to a parent's statement about Satanism in the community. Human Sciences Research Council. The Human Sciences Research Council, HSRC, statutory body released its report on what it describes as the first comprehensive assessment of human trafficking in South Africa in March 2010. While the HSRC report acknowledges an urgent need for further research on ritual sacrifice, it states as fact, the trafficking of people, sometimes children, for ritual sacrifice by satanic cults based solely on interviews with informants described as former members of satanic cults in South Africa, which revealed a belief that satanic cults operate within all areas of South Africa. A critical review of the HSRC report published by the Institute for Security Studies says it suffers from lack of evidence and methodological integrity and fuels sensationalism. Parliament of South Africa in April 2013, the Minister for Women, Children and People with Disabilities Lulu Shingwana publicly cited Satanism as a contributing factor to gender-based violence in South Africa in a submission to Parliament, despite more obvious critical factors and a lack of supporting evidence. Pseudo-Satanism, the pattern of suppressing objective information about Satanism while spreading anti-Satanist propaganda, has contributed to the social phenomenon of pseudo-Satanism in South Africa. Propagation of the Christian mythical version of Satanism serves to provide a role for rebellious teenagers and mentally confused individuals to act out in a self-fulfilling prophecy. In his 1997 PhD thesis, Gavin Ivey addresses the phenomenon of pseudo-Satanism informed by cultural paranoia. The first group hardly justifies the satanic label, and these individuals are referred to in the literature as dabblers. Greaves, 1992, Tate, 1991. They are generally white adolescents who, sensitive to the cultural paranoia surrounding Satanism, rebel against authority figures by professing loose allegiance to diluted satanic ideology, and engage in behavior that conservative authorities misconstrue as satanic, participating in the heavy metal music subculture, wearing black clothing, drawing satanic icons, participating in fantasy and occult games, etc. Their naive understanding of Satanism, the lack of organized expression, and the general anti-establishment motive of gaining identity by rebelling against traditional norms, set this group apart from Satanism proper. Because of its social visibility, this group is largely responsible for the public misperception that the incidence of Satanism has reached epidemic proportions. Nikki Fakoff notes that paranoid lists of warning signs of Satanism, such as those published by SAPS and contained in the Gauteng Education Department Handbook, operate as a self-fulfilling prophecy. The frequent list of warning signs of susceptibility to or involvement in Satanism included a litany of adolescent signifiers, from wearing black to feeling strong emotion. One Satan hunter, in a self-published pamphlet, listed restlessness, fear, loneliness, anxiety, pride, depression, jealousy as signs for parents to watch out for. Van Chijl 1988-15. Every adolescent, but most of all those who fail to display the heavily prescribed normativity attached to South African youth, was always already marked with the signs of satanic involvement. This phobic response to unruly youth is the diametric opposite of the coherence inspired by the creation of a unifying folk enemy, and operates as something of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Public demonization of youth behavior engenders the spread of rebellious social practices that take much of their color from media reports about the moral panic. American folklorist Bill Ellis associates this phenomenon with legend-tripping youths. We can infer that such folk groups, not cults, are responsible for most of what police experts claim is evidence of Satanism. Further, we may infer that as adults become hypersensitive to certain activities as satanic, many such adolescent groups will adopt, or pretend to adopt, these acts out of protest. Alleged satanic cases. According to the U.S. State Department's International Religious Freedom Report 2006 for South Africa, there were no reports of satanic killings, as such cases are investigated and prosecuted as homicide. However, a few high-profile cases have been publicly linked to Satanism. In some of these cases, Satanism, demonic possession and/or occult aspects have been raised as a legal defense or mitigating factor in sentencing. In 2008, head of the SAPS Investigative Psychology Unit Gerard Bushkaden cautioned against emphasizing so-called forces of evil in criminal cases. Whenever there is a murder, people jump to conclusions, and always God or Satan told the killers to do it. These notions shouldn't be taken seriously because it is straightforward. Someone, of their own free will, can kill another person. In 2012, Dale Wallace said many incidents were labeled satanic to cover up bullying, family problems and psychological problems. Cobus Junker is often quoted in the media and called as an expert witness regarding such cases. Veronique Faure states, although despised by the academic community, Junker enjoys the status of an expert in occult-related matters, and is highly respected and feared by those who need his services. His marketing strategy is so efficient that, scientific publications accepted, his name appears everywhere. There is a reference to Satanism in South Africa. Following sensationalistic media reports about the number of fatal incidents involving children which were linked to Satanism based on hearsay, a member of the Church of Satan condemned so-called satanic killings in an interview aired on SABC News in May 2013. He said children younger than 18 are not welcome in the church and satanic rituals are misinterpreted by many people claiming to be Satanists. An article by Kutula Nandifa in the Mail and Guardian newspaper highlighted community ignorance about Satanism and likely contributory factors including social decay and inequality and the abuse of alcohol and drugs such as niaope. Gert van Rooyen and his lover Joey Harhoff were suspected by the South African police of abducting and murdering several young girls who disappeared between 1988 and 1990. In January 1990, Van Rooyen killed Harhoff and committed suicide during a police chase. In November 1991, Van Rooyen's son Flip Pi Van Rooyen was convicted of murdering a 15-year-old Zimbabwean girl during his military service. His death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment in 1993. In 1997 he said the missing girls were killed during satanic rituals and were the victims of international child pornography rings, but no evidence of this was ever found. In 2001 he was sentenced to an additional 6 years imprisonment for perjury for false statements he made about the missing girls. He was paroled in 2008. The whereabouts of the missing girls are still unknown. Death of Dawn Orso. In September 1992, Dawn Orso was murdered in her home in the Rugby suburb of Cape Town. In March 1994, her daughter Angelique Orso and Angelique's boyfriend Lawrence Van Blerk were convicted of the murder. The judge rejected their defense that they were acting involuntarily under the influence of demons. Angelique Orso received an 11-year prison sentence and Van Blerk received an 8-year prison sentence. Abduction of Alison Botha. In December 1994, Alison Botha was abducted, raped, stabbed and disemboweled by Frans du Toit and Thoyens Kruger in Port Elizabeth. She miraculously survived the attack. Her attackers were described as Satanists in the media. Du Toit said he was possessed by a demon and underwent an exorcism in June 1995, which was publicized. Cobus Junker testified he did not believe he was possessed by a demon. Du Toit and Kruger both received life sentences in August 1995. Satanism was not considered a mitigating factor in their sentencing. Maurice Smith. In September 1997, Maurice Smith and two schoolboy accomplices murdered and decapitated a homeless man in East London. The schoolboys testified as state witnesses. Smith said he was a satanic high priest and said he killed the man to obtain a human skull to give him power. He received a 30-year prison sentence in January 1998. Satanism was not considered a mitigating factor in his sentencing. Cobus Junker said this murder gave SAPs their first concrete evidence of human sacrifice. Death of Charles Jacobs. On the 31st of October 2005, Charles Jacobs was killed in a Parallel DS church where he worked as custodian. The scene was staged as a crucifixion and the word Satan sick was written on the floor in blood. Although police spokesperson said it was probably a botched burglary, not an occult murder, the killing was described as satanic and occult style in the media. 4 suspects were arrested and charged with murder and robbery with aggravating circumstances, but the state failed to make their case. One of the 4 suspects was convicted of theft while another was convicted of receiving stolen property. Both men received suspended sentences. Lauder case. In July 2008, Johannes Petrus Lauder and his wife Maria Magdalena Lauder were murdered in their home in the Westville suburb of Durban. Their daughter Nicolette, their son Hardis and Nicolette's boyfriend Matthew Naidu were arrested shortly afterwards. In 2009, Christelle Lauder, sister to Hardis and Nicolette, dismissed claims that her siblings were influenced by Satanism. The murder trial, which commenced in October 2011, involved references to God, the Bible, Satanism, Atakawash, demons and witchcraft. In March 2012, Nicolette, Hardis and Naidu were convicted of the murder. The uncle of the Lauder siblings, Reverend Willem Lauder of the Dutch Reformed Church, gave evidence in mitigation of sentence during which he urged them to take responsibility for their actions. Nicolette received 2 12-year concurrent prison sentences and Hardis received 2 10-year concurrent prison sentences. The judge said people should not be allowed to escape liability as a result of a belief in witchcraft and the occult. Naidu, whom the siblings said they believed to be the third son of God and was found to be the mastermind by the judge, received 2 life sentences. Morn Harms. In August 2008, 18-year-old Morn Harms went on a violent rampage at his Krugersdorp school, killing fellow pupil Jacques Praetorius and injuring several others with a katana. During the attack, he wore a mask resembling one worn by the lead singer of heavy metal band Slipknot. It was reported he told bystanders Satan told him to do it. His parents told the press he was a victim of school bullying and said it seemed he had experimented with Satanism. Community speculation about a satanic motive was dismissed as simplistic by SAPS psychologist Gerard Bushkagan. During early court proceedings, it transpired that Harms had told a doctor a ghost had told him to become a Satanist. In his subsequent admission of guilt of murder and attempted murder, he said he did it to make an impression. Cobus Junker later testified as expert witness. The evidence did not suggest he was a Satanist. Harms received a 20-year prison sentence in September 2009. Death of Michael Van Eck. In April 2011, Michael Van Eck was murdered in a Welcome graveyard by Shane Van Eerden and Martins van der Merwe. The murder was labeled Satanic by Danny Krugel, a former police officer and founding member of Oxeno. Soon after the murder, Welcome Police spokesperson Stephen Thakang, who is also an ordained Christian minister, said gruesome discoveries on the couple's property confirmed the police's suspicion about their involvement in Satanism. People close to the couple said they were Christian and denied any link to Satanism. The Satanism link was dismissed by expert witnesses and Van Eerden herself during her trial. SAPS psychologist Gerard Bushkagan testified aspects of the murder indicated it was a psychologically motivated crime. In November 2011, Van Eerden was declared a dangerous criminal and received a minimum prison sentence of 20 years, to be re-evaluated after 20 years. Van der Merwe received a life sentence in November 2012. Death of Kirsty Theologo. In October 2011, 18-year-old Kirsty Theologo died and a 14-year-old girl was seriously injured after being doused with petrol and set on fire in the Lynmire southern suburb of Johannesburg. The incident was described as a satanic ritual in the media. 6 people aged 16 to 23 were charged with murder and attempted murder. In March 2012, 18-year-old Lester Moody, the son of a Christian pastor, and 18-year-old Jeremy King entered into a plea bargain with the state. Each received a 17-year prison sentence, 5 years of which was suspended. In April 2013, Moody testified in the trial of the 4 others accused that the ritual, which he described as a sacrifice after reading it described that way in magazines, was based on a Bible verse with satanic elements added later. The court also heard from a defense attorney that Theologo's friends were curious about Satanism but did not really understand what it entailed. In November 2013, Lyndon Wagner and Robin Harwood were convicted of assault, murder and attempted murder. In February 2014, Wagner was sentenced to life imprisonment for Theologo's murder plus 18 years imprisonment for attempted murder, while Harwood was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment for Theologo's murder. Deaths linked to Overcomers Through Christ ministry between July 2012 and October 2012, 2 women and a male pastor with links to the Overcomers Through Christ (OTC) teaching ministry, as well as a neighbor of one of the women, were found stabbed to death in Gauteng. Friends of the victims and the media speculated the deaths were linked to Satanism. It was reported one of the women killed, Natasha Berger, was an OTC trainer who converted Satanists to Christianity and worked with former Satanists. In December 2017, 6 members of Overcomers Through Christ were arrested for the 4 murders, which were among a total of 11 murders believed to have been committed by the group. The killings are believed to have stemmed from a factional split in the OTC membership. Death of Kyle Mudaly in September 2012. 16-year-old Kyle Mudaly from the Reservoir Hills suburb of Durban committed suicide in his bedroom. A black hexagram was found on his bedroom wall. Speculation that the suicide was linked to a satanic cult was dismissed by his family and friends, who said he was a practicing Christian. Death of Kimajetswe Sefalaro in March 2013. 14-year-old Kimajetswe Sefalaro from Lucanyo Secondary School in the Molokeng Township in Randfontein was allegedly fatally stabbed on her way home from school by a 15-year-old girl from the same school who was arrested immediately and charged with murder. Before dying, Sefalaro allegedly told her mother her attacker and 2 others present interrogated her about an incident where she apparently called them goths and said they were attacking her because she hung out with Satanists. Other family members alleged the attackers had declared they were Satanists, and the stabbing incident and attackers were labeled satanic in the media. Police said there is no evidence of a satanic group or occult-related crime in the area. Journalists were informed the case would be heard in camera. In October 2013, the teenage defendant confessed to the murder in court and received a prison sentence of 10 years, including a 2-year suspended sentence. She said she committed the murder to be promoted within a cult after Sefalaro had decided to leave the cult, and that she was attracted to the cult by the prospect of financial gain. Fatal exorcisms. There have also been several reported cases of fatal exorcisms of children where the killers believed the victims were possessed by demons. In November 2011, a priest and 5 adult congregation members of the African Gospel Church in Humansdorp in the Eastern Cape were arrested for killing Millie Matsensi, a 7-year-old girl with epilepsy, during an exorcism ritual. In March 2012, 5 relatives were arrested for the killing of Sinthemba Dlamini, a teenage girl from Umlazi in KwaZulu-Natal, during another exorcism. According to a police source, the girl was accused of being possessed by a demon after she had become withdrawn. Academic views. Veronique Faure states, Satanism, a recent and marginal phenomenon in South Africa, is more often treated by the tabloids than by the academics. In her 2012 MA thesis, Danielle Dunbar comments on the lack of academic interest in the subject. A small number of alarmist texts have been penned by South Africans in what is termed anti-Satanist literature, a voluminous but narrow corpus of work that warns against the dangers of Satanism and the satanic influences of popular youth culture. An even smaller body of works has been written from the academic perspective, not taking into account academic theses on Satanism written from a Christian perspective. Some theses or articles written by academics relevant to the satanic panic in South Africa are listed below. Ivy, Gavin, 1993. The Psychology of Satanic Worship. South African Journal of Psychology. Psychological Society of South Africa. 23 4. 180-185. doi:1110.117/0081246393023004004. S2CID 147519176. Abstract. A significant amount of media attention has recently been focused on allegations of widespread satanic activity in South Africa. However, little social scientific research has been forthcoming on the nature, incidence, activities, and psychological dynamics associated with Satanism. In this article I attempt to address this lacuna by examining the definition, history, social context, and ideology of Satanism. Satanism is defined as a specific religious cult, characterized by the inversion of Christian norms and ideology. It is argued that the apparent increase in satanic activity is related to a socio-economic context of radical cultural change, turmoil, and social instability. Contemporary white adolescents, feeling alienated, anxious, and powerless, are attracted to Satanism as a means of obtaining magical power and control over their destiny. Satanism, in addition, meets specific psychological needs which are not met by other forms of religious worship. In the article I consider the psychological factors which predispose individuals to satanic activities, and conclude by examining the diagnostic status of demonic possession in clinical psychology. Ivy, Gavin, 1997. The Psychology of Satanic Cult Involvement, an Archetypal Object Relations Perspective, Ph.D. University of KwaZulu-Natal. Faure, Veronique, 2006. In Pursuit of the Occult, The Investigation of Satanism and Witchcraft in South Africa. In Kiernan, James, ed. The Power of the Occult in Modern Africa, Continuity and Innovation in the Renewal of African Cosmologies. Berlin, Lit Verlag. Pages 153-181. ISBN 3825887618. Veronique Faure is a French psychoanalyst with qualifications in psychology and political science who has conducted research in South Africa. Wallace, Dale, 2006. The Construction and Articulation of a Pagan Identity in South Africa, a study of the nature and implications of a contested religious identity in a pluralistic society, Ph.D. University of KwaZulu-Natal. Dale Wallace is an honorary senior lecturer in religion studies at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Petrus, Theodore, 2009. An Anthropological Study of Witchcraft-Related Crime in the Eastern Cape and Its Implications for Law Enforcement Policy and Practice, PDF, Ph.D. thesis. Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. Theodore Petrus was a senior lecturer in anthropology at Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University until 2014. Terpo, Anika, 2009. My House is Protected by a Dragon. White South Africans, Magic and Sacred Spaces in Post-Apartheid Cape Town, PDF. Suomen Anthropologie, Journal of the Finnish Anthropological Society. 34 1. 1941. The informants of this research are white South Africans from Cape Town, neo-pagans who practice Wiccan witchcraft and Sangomas who practice traditional African religion. Anika Terpo is a Finnish anthropologist. She obtained a Ph.D. in social and cultural anthropology from the University of Helsinki in 2004 and has been a senior researcher at the Nordic Africa Institute since October 2012. Rousseau, Jacques, the 14th of September 2009. Goblins and Gobbledygook, PDF. The Star. Jacques Rousseau teaches critical thinking and ethics at the University of Cape Town. Fakov, Nikki, 2010. Apartheid's Demons, Satanism and Moral Panic in South Africa. Hagar. Studies in Culture, Politics and Identity. Beersheba, Israel. Ben-Gurion University. 9 2. 115-135. Nikki Fakov obtained a Ph.D. in Humanities and Cultural Studies from the London Consortium in 2011 and joined the Media Studies Department of Wits University as a senior lecturer in April 2013. Rousseau, Jacques, the 23rd of November 2011. The Ladders, Harry Potter and S.A.'s Judicial System. Daily Maverick. Fakov, Nikki, 2012. Satan Has Come to Rietfontein, Race in South Africa's Satanic Panic. Journal of Southern African Studies. London, Routledge. 38 4. 753, 767. doi:10.1080/0305707.2012.73229. S2CID 144804619. Dunbar, Danielle, 2012. The Devil's Children, Volk, Devils in Moral Panics in White South Africa, 1976-1993, M.A. Thesis. Stellenbosch University. Dunbar, Danielle, Swart, Sandra, 2012. No less a phobe than Satan himself. The Devil, Transition in Moral Panic in White South Africa, 1989-1993. Journal of Southern African Studies. 38 3. 601-621. doi:10.1080/0305707.2012.7196888. S2CID 145482071. Rousseau, Jacques, the 26th of March 2013. Burn the Witch. Daily Maverick. Rousseau, Jacques, the 12th of June 2013. Catholic and Muslim South Africa. Daily Maverick. Rousseau, Jacques, the 13th of November 2013. Occult crime units is offensive to common sense and morality. Ground up. Notes. References. Further reading: McLean, Gareth, the 16th of October 2000. The Devil You Know. The Guardian. Retrieved the 3rd of May 2013. Review of Channel 4 documentary Witness, Satanic Crimes about violent crimes allegedly committed by Satanists in South Africa. Lustig, Henk, 2010. Dr. Kobus Jonker, God's Detective. Vice. Vice Media Incorporated 17-4. Archived from the original on the 1st of August 2013. Retrieved the 4th of May 2013. Vice Magazine interview with Kobus Jonker. Warning. Linked content contains graphic and potentially disturbing images. Deep Freed Man, the 4th of July 2012. The Satan Particle. Daily Maverick. Retrieved the 4th of May 2013. A satirical take on the Satanic Panic in South Africa. Ghosts in the Machine. ZA News. The 21st of September 2012. Retrieved the 12th of May 2013. The South African police vow to clamp down on ghosts, witches and ghouls. Satirical television news bulletin about the Satanic Panic in South Africa. Satanism. The Acid Test Stat. The Alternative Religions Forum. 2013. Retrieved the 29th of August 2013.